Welcome to the On a Mission Mojo podcast, where I have the pleasure of interviewing impact-driven founders, entrepreneurs, authors, and business experts who are actively working to create a positive difference in our world. I'm your host, Lori Young, a branding specialist, certified master marketer, and a passionate advocate for brands that possess heart, soul, and an unwavering commitment to drive change for humanity. It takes grit, a visionary mindset, and an abundance of mojo to navigate this journey. And the stories I share will undoubtedly ignite your passion. If you're seeking an infusion of inspiration, motivation, and valuable insights to amplify your impact, let's dive right in. Welcome to episode 36 of the On a Mission Mojo podcast. We are going to have a lot of fun today. We have something special planned for you. But what we're going to be talking about today is how to know what your brilliance is, or sometimes I think people call it the zone of genius, and why it's important for you to be operating in this space. We're going to do a little intuitive session with our guest is going to kind of guide me through identifying my brilliance. And then we'll also talk about why it's important to have team members as we build our business, to have team members that are also operating from their brilliance. So let me introduce our guest today. Michele Parad is an intuitive guide, a consultant, author, and an inspirational keynote speaker. She is the founder of Your Brilliance Accelerator and the Multidimensional Leaders, an exclusive membership community. Her mission is to help thought leaders and creative thinkers achieve their potential, align with their goals, reach more visibility, and cultivate peace in their business relationships. She has over 15 years of deep experience in startup marketing and is an advanced healer and mindset trainer with certifications in 6+ modalities. Very impressive. So thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you,
Michele,
Lori, for having me. Oh my goodness, this is going to be so much fun.
Yes, I can't wait. I can't wait for this.
We have a little bit of context with each other. We've been working already with each other for the past few weeks, and it's been just such a pleasure. I just want to say to be working with you. It's been like a godsend, I think, for sure. Spirit, if you will, the universe connected us in a beautiful way.
In a very unusual way. It started off as a networking call and turned into a really great partnership, and we're still getting to know each other, but it's fun. I'm enjoying the relationship. So
absolutely, yes.
So let's go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think it was just very interesting that both of us are kind of going through this pivot moment, and that we met each other even though what's presented maybe on our websites isn't necessarily where we have evolved to.
Right.
And so that was the interesting part, is that as we got talking, it kind of got revealed sort of over time, where you were thinking you were moving towards. And that was exactly actually the type of person that I was looking for. Yeah.
Right. Which, you know what, I kind of have been in the mindset of just universe, show me, show me what's next, reveal to me what is next. So, because sometimes when in our businesses, I think a lot of people can relate to this. And especially now, I'm talking to so many business owners that are in a place of evolution, or, just a place of feeling like they need to pivot or not sure what's next. And for me, I've had another client that was an energy healer, and we kind of still talk, and she's always telling me, put it out to the universe, put it out to the universe. And so that's what I've been doing. And you were a sign, okay, this is where I need to be. So anyway, we can talk more about that a little bit later, but let's, I guess, dive into just sharing with listeners, what you feel your mission is in the world, and why, why that mission?
Yeah. So I'm one of those people who has many layers of mission.
Okay. Okay.
And so, I want to pinpoint it on one, and I know all of them are really interconnected. So it
Hmm.
sort of starts on the micro level with the individual. So as we're talking about helping myself first and foremost go through a process that I want to call self-actualization.
Hmm.
That's been something I've just been over the past 10 years been consistently maybe a little obsessed with. um, and just it's a constant um, seeking to understand myself better
Hmm.
um, through my experience with other people, through learning about different modalities. And every
Hmm.
time, I take a new personality test or different formats and tools to get to know myself deeper and deeper. I just get more and more surprised by that. And
Hmm.
I over time just wanted to share essentially all and gather all of those different nuggets of places, hidden places where you can find gems about yourself because we
Hmm.
really are such dynamic and unique individuals. We can't
Yes.
really be pinpointed to one thing.
Right. Hmm.
Even though society kind of do that to us, in traditional roles. And
Right.
so we want to say, oh, you're really good at this one thing and that's it. But then, we have different passions, we have different skill sets and unique abilities that then make a person that is a super holistic being,
Yes.
right? And that
Yes.
multidimensional, which is also
Hmm.
kind of where
Multidimensional. Yes.
going with my communities. Um, so that includes too, abilities, and this is going in the woo direction, but perhaps it's intuitive abilities that you have not yet unlocked about
Hmm.
yourself. And I do believe that each and every person has those abilities. And when
Hmm.
we are able to tap into them, we are just so much more efficient at what we're doing. We have better decision making skills. We have better discernment skills about, um, who to work with, who to partner with, where to go at what point in time. So these are really, really important skill sets that each of us can have in our own unique way. And so, on the individual level, my goal is to help people understand themselves deeper, to
Hmm.
uncover some of those,
Right.
and to do a little bit of subconscious work, because a lot of the times how we see ourselves is not
Mm.
who we actually are. Um,
Right.
we tend to have layers of criticism,
Hmm.
traumas, projections of what other people think of us.
Right.
And it kind of all gets mixed in with what we innately know about our
Hmm.
true selves. So it's like, let's unmask those things that are not true.
Hmm.
And then what's behind that is that brilliant gemstone, essentially.
I
Um,
like that.
and so it's really this kind of like alchemical process of
Hmm.
like bringing out what's really, really, truly uniquely this person and this being. And sometimes it requires like many depths in the process because you start to see yourself in a different light, right?
Right.
From
Hmm.
when you previously were operating in the world. And so once you've gone through this process, you can really then become open and more connected to yourself, and therefore um, more things land into place with regards to your mission in the
Mm-hmm.
world. That's kind of what happens on an individual level. And then, that starts to expand into how we interact with uh, other people in our community, other people in our organizations, society as a whole as well. I
Hmm.
haven't tackled the society part yet, but I know that's eventually gonna be part of my mission too. And so, so we want to look at this as a systemic level too, because the more people that are operating in their excellence, in their brilliance, really knowing who they are, what they're meant to be doing, on a society level, that equates to world peace in my in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
essentially.
Yeah,
Uh,
because there's a lot more people who are fulfilled and
yes,
happy, and everything is working better together because people
yes,
are, like you said, in their brilliance.
exactly. And for me, there was always something I innately really had so many triggers around, which is
Mm-hmm.
hierarchy. To me, it feels like a false type of system that
Mm-hmm.
was created over centuries, but
Okay.
we still know them today in organizations. And I always had some kind of irking feeling about it that I didn't quite understand why. And then I started reading into the gene keys, and Richard Rudd goes into what potentially a more conscious society will move us into, which is, and
Hmm.
synarchy is, in contrast, where it's exactly where, different people with their unique abilities come
Mm-hmm.
together and they lead together. So it's more of a symbiotic relationship, as
I like
opposed
that.
to there's only a few people in power who have money or whatever, and everyone else is sort of like trickle down.
Mm-hmm.
No, and so that's also where I'm starting to think, as far as the communities that I'm in and where I'm creating within the multidimensional leaders as
Mm-hmm.
well, is how can we create this more symbiotic relationship where there's an exchange
Mm-hmm.
of our expertise,
Yes.
and an exchange of revenue, and it's just this really beautiful. It's more of like a circle than it is a
Mhm.
triangle. That makes sense.
Okay. Uh-huh. No, I
Um,
like that. Yeah, I like that. Thus I guess why your community is called the co-creators community, right?
yes, so that's like level one of the community, and the overarching is the
The
multidimensional lead.
multidimensional leaders, right? Right. Yeah. So
So
let's dive into like your brilliance, right? And why is it so important that we are operating from our brilliance when we are, if as a business leader and as a business owner, which all of our listeners, or not all, but a lot of our listeners are business owners, they're mission driven business owners. Why is it so important to be operating from our brilliance?
yeah, I feel like we can start with what happens when you're not operating
Okay.
from
Hmm.
your
Yes.
which is a lot of things start to go wrong.
Hmm.
Perhaps you're not seeing the revenue that you are hoping for. Perhaps other things are falling apart. It's obviously each individual, it depends on their specific system and what's happening in their world.
Right.
But that tends to be what happens, is like a bit more chaos when
Hmm.
people are not really operating as they should be. And I do think that the universe has a beautiful way of having that be our clues, if we are willing to listen to them,
Hmm.
uh, to pivot, to make a switch, to change something about the way in which we're operating.
Right.
And sometimes we have blind spots around what that is exactly, but hopefully, as you're seeking, that the answer will come to you, whether that's through a conversation or some other insight that comes to you, in the most surprising ways. Maybe it's an article, maybe, then
Hmm.
somehow like the light bulb goes off and you're like, wait a second, maybe I'm not in the right role. And I've seen this kind of countless times, time and again. One example is, and I can even just talk about my own experiences.
Hmm.
I have had all these certifications, right?
Hmm.
And part of me wanted so badly to hold on to the identity that the certification gave me, right? So, for example, if you certify as a coach, you're going to want to become a coach.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
sometimes what you learn doesn't have to become your profession. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's just the building blocks of information that you need that is helpful for you to become yourself. It's part of your journey, but it doesn't have to become your profession. So that's, I think, sometimes where the distinction can happen. And that
Mm-hmm.
also that happens often with education, where it's like maybe you even get a PhD in
Right.
something and then you're expected to go into that profession. Sometimes
Right.
when you go into it, you realize it's not the it's not the role or the system that you thought it was. And so a lot of people can sometimes have those like mini um midlife crisis.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I've definitely seen that. Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's, so that's part of it. It's like you don't have to define what you do by what you learned or by the boxes you put yourself in the past or the roles that
Mm-hmm.
you played in the past. There's different contexts for why you ended up in one place or another. And sometimes those are all pieces of information that you do need for your ultimate mission.
Mm-hmm.
But if we stay a little bit stuck in the smallness of a role that you may have thought you had to have,
Right.
then um, that's all you'll ever see. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's really just an encouragement to everyone to think a little bit more dynamically about themselves and
Right.
not to um, pigeonhole themselves into a particular context just because of the past.
I also think, I mean, I'm thinking about just my own situation. It's so like complicated because I'm like you, like I'm a certified coach, I'm a certified OBM or online business manager, I'm a certified master marketer. So like I have all of these certifications and I thought, okay, so I started off kind of using all of them in an original business. And then California AB5 laws went into effect and kind of put a kibosh on my online business management. And I stopped doing that. I moved solely into marketing. And I loved the title of, branding and marketing, certified master marketer, right? Because to me, it was more sexy
Yes.
than an online business manager, right? An online business manager it just wasn't sexy. It was, I don't know what it was about. It's the creativity of marketing that, oh, we build beautiful websites and, oh, there was just something more sexy about it because I was attracted to the creativity of it.
Hmm.
But my natural like person is like, I'm a manager,
Hmm.
right? And I'm very like systematic, very much into creating systems that work, thinking holistically about things. And for whatever reason, that doesn't seem as sexy to me as marketing. And so I've kind of resisted until the universe was like, no, you can't resist this. This is not working. You're supposed to be someplace else. And I don't know. It's an interesting thing. But now what I'm finding is that I really need to embrace like all of me. Like I really need to embrace like you said, like I am a certified coach, I am a certified OBM, I am a certified master marketer, and I can find a way to holistically use all of that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And um it's like you
And
said.
I don't even know for sure that that's like I still question like every day what am I supposed to be doing? Like I'm like seriously like I'm old enough to know like what I'm supposed to be doing in this world. But yeah.
I think it's an ongoing evolution for all of us, right? I think we're always seeking for that next version of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or that next piece of information that's going to take us to the next place. And I think that you working in that marketing space is still very much closely aligned with the OBM work that you're, moving into. And in fact, it differentiates you perhaps with others because you know and can see different aspects that maybe other people don't, right?
True. Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's definitely a plus that you had that whole journey and now are like integrating it into what you're doing. But one thing that I kind of meditated on very quickly before getting on, and
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if this resonates with you. But so far, like the context that I have, we've talked a little bit, and the context that I have is that, you mentioned that, relationships was something on your Clifton
Clifton
strengths,
Strength.
and you said you were a Capricorn.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and you just took my brilliance quiz, and not surprisingly, you said you're an explorer, which you just mentioned to me. You
Right.
love you're going to Dubai and you love traveling, so
Yes.
that doesn't surprise me. So these are all beautiful clues into you as a dynamic person, right? And I kind of saw that there is something very special that you're learning about business operations that maybe other people don't necessarily look at. And it
Mm-hmm.
has something to do, and you might know a little bit more about what this has to do with, but it's something to do infinite possibilities in business, and there are infinite ways to achieve a goal. And I really kind of see you putting that into a book and teaching that. That's another reason I kind of saw you as an educator as well. So teaching that in workshops, like maybe live workshops around the world, because that's, the explorer part of you, going to fun, exotic places and teaching about it there.
Oh, wow. That's way out of my comfort zone.
Sometimes those future versions of ourselves are, outside of the realm of like what we see today, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
is push us to a new level. But yeah, I do think that you have maybe it's not something you're consistently doing, but I do think you have a way of explaining things that's really both like heart-centered and
Mm-hmm.
very deliberate and like logical, so people can really understand it, which I
Mm-hmm.
think not everybody has that ability for sure.
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
and yeah, so there's really something that you're uncovering in all of your experience about operations that maybe not maybe it seems like a duh to you, but it's not for everybody else. Does that make sense?
Interesting. Yeah, I find it so hard to connect with what's different about me. Like when I look at the rest of the world, I just see there's nothing special about me. There's nothing like unique about me. I'm I'm trying, I think, the only thing that I can say that's unique about me is like, and I'm using this term in my business, and that is like, I'm like your strategic biz bestie. Like, I'm so relationship focused, so heart centered, but yet so strategic and business minded. It's like I have this ability to hold a business owner's hand and strategically work through their business while also being their best friend. Or so, like, and it's not like my spouse always says to me, business is business, Lori. You can't be so personal in business. And I always have this reaction of like, why? Like,
Why not?
why? Why not? Because, and that is one of the things that my clients have really enjoyed about me is that I am so personable and I am like, I genuinely care. Like sometimes I care more about the person's business than they care themselves. And that's where it becomes a problem for me. And because I'm so personal, like business decisions, when we part ways, it's hard for me to, I take it personal because it's so, I don't know, I'm so heart centered. And so it can be kind of like a pro and a con, but
Sure.
that's, and you mentioned about there's infinite ways to do something. Like I'm really like a firm believer that a business owner needs to feel very aligned with how they're doing business. Like
Yes.
I don't think that there is a right way or a wrong way. There is
Mhm.
a right way for you. And for me, it's about helping them discover, like, I'm
Yes.
fine with giving words of wisdom. Here's my advice on this. Have you thought about this? But in the end, I feel like a business owner has to be authentically aligned with
Mhm.
every decision that they make in business. And just because the experts say you should do this or you should do that, that doesn't mean that it's right for the business owner.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think that's the topic right there. That's the topic of your book. I think that you do have like a
That's
unique,
the topic of my book.
I think it's, there's a unique take on, or, and also maybe you've seen and witnessed, the variations that business owners have taken to get to the same goal, right? And
Hmm.
versus like other coaches and consultants who are like, they've seen one way that worked for one person and that's what they pitch, for their customers and clients, whereas you're taking a much more nuanced approach, which personally I think is, it means it's someone who is very, very intelligent, right? Because you can see all the different
Hmm.
possibilities that exist, right? Like your mind is open to different ways that
Hmm.
someone can get to the, and also the best way for them, as you said, right?
Yeah,
So
not only the best way, but okay, first of all, I don't believe that there's ever an end. Like, okay, I've reached success, right? Uh, two things about that. One is I feel like success is defined so differently by everyone. Like, success for one person may be, a certain monetary figure. Success for another person may be they have the freedom, they have financial freedom, but they have the freedom to work from anywhere in the world, or they have the freedom to be with their kids if they want to be with their kids. Success might be like you talked about, like just this process of self actualization and just growing more and more into yourself and helping others do that. I just feel like impact and success is like measured in different ways.
mhm. Yeah.
And I also feel like, kind of like what we've been talking about, we never reach the end. Like if we are always growing and learning and self-actualizing, we don't ever like meet the end until one day we just decide, you know what, I'm retiring and I'm not going to self-actualize anymore. Like I don't know if that's possible, but anyway, like.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of my dad who retired, but it's like actually he's actually doing all of his like passion projects that he never got to when he was
Mhm.
working. So I don't even think, like, personally, I don't even think I would be like retiring in the traditional
In
sense.
traditional sense, right?
But so yeah, it's interesting. I think we're here to learn how to be the best creators of our world, kind
Mhm.
of like to be like God in the sense that God is like the creator of this world. So, and we're also the creator of our own world. And how
Mm-hmm.
do we do that in the best possible way? And it's like you said, it's sometimes changing what our goals are, ultimately, right? For one person, it's, I want to build 7-figure business. Another person is, I want to be with my kids and have a side income or whatever. And that's
Mm-hmm.
my, desire. So, um, you know, two different goals, it means two different strategies, right?
Absolutely.
How to do
Absolutely.
so
So, let's talk, I guess, a little bit about kind of going back to this whole like brilliance concept, right? And so we understand the importance of operating from our brilliance, and we understand that it's a process of, I think, finding our brilliance, and I think even as we grow, like, our brilliance grows as well. One of the things that we said that we would talk about is just adding team members or adding people to your business that are operating from their brilliance. How do we
Mhm.
like even like go about like doing that? I mean, I know I had my ways, but I'd love to hear from you. Like, how do
Mhm.
you how do you find like the right team members that are a good match for you, a good balance for you, but they're also
Mhm.
like operating in their brilliance?
Yeah. Um, I do think that the first step is more individual work
Okay.
because the issues that you have, the cracks that you have, also gets reflected in the people in your team as well. I
Mm-hmm.
tend to notice that, sometimes some of my patterns in thinking gets reflected. So, at the very early stages of my business, I was really in a very burnt out stage.
Okay.
And I think that got reflected in an assistant that I had called in, literally because her lights were going out, like her electricity was going out. And
Wow.
that was a sign to me, y- like, you have no more energy left. That's it.
That
You
is interesting.
shut down. Right? So
That's really interesting.
so you got to notice sort of like what's going on immediately for you, and
Hmm.
sometimes your team will also show that to you in some subtle and not so subtle ways. So I do think that there is a lot of process, and sometimes when you're going through the entrepreneurial journey, you may end up moving through different team members because as you work through yourself, you've kind of moved on to a different timeline, and then kind of attract someone different to you,
Hmm.
based on the changes you've personally made. So that's one thing to sort of keep in mind. The other is that there's this experimental phase as well of what kind of team member do I really need or want,
Hmm.
and so sometimes we get it wrong. We think, for example, we need, let's just say, a social media manager, and
Hmm.
then um, they come along and it's a disaster because, let's just say, it's just very difficult for them to understand your brand, your mission, and the way you think about the world. And so it's very difficult to replicate in another person. Just as an example. So it's then, okay, maybe there is somebody else that is complementary to me, that's going to work in a different way, that's going to help me move social media forward,
Hmm.
but it's not in necessarily the traditional way that we think of as a social media manager. But it's like this process that we all have to go through of trial and error because there are traditional roles that we all think that we're meant to have as our team members.
Hmm. Hmm.
And we're instead, what we have to look at is, okay, what is it that I am crucial to do inside of my business? And then what are the aspects that I am either not good at, don't think I'll have enough time to train myself on, or
Hmm.
realistically, if I did train myself on coding, right, like it would take me a long time
Yeah.
to do that.
Right.
So, you know, so there's certain expertise that is like it would be a big climb for me or for whoever it is to get to that knowledge base. So it's
Hmm.
much better, easier to delegate that out. So like what are the pieces that you don't know how to do, can't really learn fast, and or is not necessarily an efficient use of your time, and what can support those core areas that you are really essential to within your business.
Hmm.
So you kind of have to identify what is the essential, and then what's the support around that. And so defining that very clearly can
Hmm.
then help you call in obviously the right people
Right.
for that support. And that can look in so many different ways, right? Like there's now fractional roles, there's contractors, it can be a full-time person, but you can look outside of like we've got Upwork. Like there's so many ways that we can get support in even very small and niche projects. So maybe instead of hiring a full-time person, you just hire someone on this one project. Maybe that develops into more projects, but
Hmm.
it's kind of have to think dynamically about who we are bringing in and for what. And in some cases, you might have a role in mind, but when the person comes, you start to see that they really excel in this one area. And
Hmm.
so I like to think about, okay, maybe there's this one area that you can just tell they like to spend time here.
Hmm.
And maybe they've even voiced that that's the direction that they kind of want to go in from their
Right.
own development and evolution. So where is there a synergy between your goals and their goals ultimately?
Hmm.
And see if there is that in place. So rather than being so rigid about this person's going to do XYZ for me,
Hmm.
over time, it's getting to know that person more intimately and really playing into their strengths or
Yes.
into the area that they really desire to move into as much as possible, and requires us to, like you said, build a relationship with people. And that's why you're probably so good with team, is because you're getting personal with them, and then most likely they feel a level of trust with you that they can tell you, hey, like I really love this kind of work, or I
Yeah.
really see in this direction. Potentially, there may be an opening within the organization to allow for that to happen. But if that conversation never happens, then that person might be stuck kind of fulfilling a
Yeah.
role that they really desire to fulfill.
Right. It's very true. I mean, I have an example of that of someone on my team. She's a copywriter and WordPress web designer on my team, right? But I just recently learned that she loves writing standard operating procedures. And it's like, okay, that's like copywriter, website designer, standard operating procedures. They're so like vastly different from one another, but I do know her well enough. I've been working with her for like 3 years. So it's like, I do know her well enough. She's very strategic. She's
Right,
very strategic, very systematic. And so it makes sense that she loves like SOPs.
right.
Um, and so it was just something interesting. And I even like my other website designer also does like financial management. And it's like, again,
It's so
so
different.
different. She's a very creative, like designer,
Yeah.
but financial management, they're just, I feel like they're too, and maybe tend to attract a lot of people with like balanced right and left brains, because I think I'm very balanced right and left brain person too. But the other thing I wanted to say about like finding like right fit team members for me, and I don't know if it's the same for you, but for me, it is very important that they are aligned with my core values.
Mm-hmm.
I have found when I work with either team members or clients that are not aligned with my core values, inevitably, like,
Yeah.
things start to like fall down and not work. Like, I'm very much a
Oh, I
communicator,
think you
right?
froze.
And so like if I'm working with someone that doesn't communicate with me, takes days to get back with me, I'm just like, I start telling myself stories like what's going on, like, and it's harder for me to work with someone that I don't have a flow of communication going. So
Mhm,
values is a big thing for me. And then like strengths. Whenever I bring someone on, like I always run them through the Clifton strengths,
mhm,
because I want to see like what strengths do they have that are maybe different than mine.
exactly.
I'm very like my four of my top five are relationship focused. My other one is achiever. So I'm big into execution. Like
Yeah.
my website designer, two of my website designer and my copywriter, high strategy. So like I know like I can go to them and talk strategy. And I also see where sometimes things will break down. Like I'll give something to my website designer and I'll think, oh, I've covered everything I need to cover with her, right? And she comes back with a million questions and I'm like, okay, I guess I didn't think about that. But she's very strategic. And so she's always thinking about the big picture of everything. And so yeah, it's I think it's helpful to have, they always say the best leaders hire people who are smarter than them. But I think it's like the best leaders hire people who have different strengths than them.
Yes, absolutely. Right. And such good points. And like you said, I think it's really, really helpful to have this information about people because it can also help you communicate with them better, right? Because
Hmm.
you know, okay, they might get this piece of the project, but maybe I have to explain this other aspect of it to them
Right.
in a different way. And so overall, you just become a more cohesive team when you are on the same page and that what their strengths are and what to play off to them. It's like a football team, right? You're going to pass the ball to them at this point in time, right? And then they're
Right.
going to pass
Hmm.
you in this place, right?
Right, but oh, maybe this ball is not a good fit for them, so I'll pass the ball to this person instead.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So So yeah, we need to think a little bit more like that. And I do feel like when we're kids, somehow, in school, we do get the opportunity to use left and right brain because we're doing, arts and crafts and music and
Right.
other things in addition to the math. And I think that it's it's interesting and I think crucial for us to continue to do that kind of like what you said, having people who can think in the different realms and
Hmm.
be creative and strategic, and
Right.
I do think that somehow that helps with like neuroplasticity and somehow that just brings about a lot of innovation, right? When you're thinking to when you're and so I think it's beautiful, like somebody who does financial stuff and website. I think it's like
Yeah.
somehow complementary. I don't know. I can't see it right now, but
I know
uh,
it's interesting. Like, I mean, kind of like copywriting and SOPs. Like, I mean, okay, there is a little bit more correlation between that. Like writing,
right,
you write
right.
SOPs, right? But copywriting is a very creative, artistic way. SOPs is a very like um
The logical.
analytical and kind of systematic way of writing.
Right, right, right. Yeah.
But I guess
So
there's also a systematic way of writing copy too. So if you think about it.
I mean, I think it's creative in a different way
Mm-hmm.
because what you do in a particular project can be creative as well, right? So all the little steps along the way, maybe
Mm-hmm.
you didn't think of a particular part in the process, right? And then this person was able to think of that, whereas someone
Right.
else wouldn't, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's why I
Uh,
think it's so important that we are co-creating, right? And because we
yeah,
are, like you said, multidimensional, and we need everybody's creations to create a whole.
absolutely. And I really appreciate your point about values as well. That's a big one for me too. And realize how big that was, again, until you start working with people. And maybe you have certain standards for just communication or work ethic or whatever that you think it generally understood, but not everyone has this, same
Hmm.
context. So
Hmm.
it's helpful to be very clear about what those are for ourselves, and then depending on the size of your your company, of course, as well, but to be able to communicate that as to others as well, so that they're clear about what's important to you. Um,
Yes.
so
Yep. Absolutely. So
so
this
that
has
helps.
been a great conversation. We are obviously at time, so I always want to ask my favorite question of all, because we are on a mission, Mojo, and I do think it takes everyone's unique mojo in this world to make it beautiful. So tell me and listeners, what is your mojo, your magical superpower that you bring to the world?
Yes. So I'll go off of my brilliance archetype, which is an archetype quiz that I created. So mine is the magician. So
Okay.
that's essentially um, the way that I want to interpret it in my life is that I'm always looking for I don't want to say shortcuts because it's not like I work very hard, so I don't want to get somewhere fast without like thinking it through.
Hmm.
But I do like to figure out what's like the most efficient path, mostly because I kind of want to enjoy my life and conserve my energy. and,
Okay.
and
That's
so like
fair.
the more ways that I can figure out how to manifest in a better way, how to create processes that are just going to amplify what I'm doing in the best
Hmm.
possible way.
Hmm.
I'm experimenting with AI currently, and I was just talking to someone before this call about like how a coach that I worked with basically wouldn't tell me his secret sauce to like how the AI worked, and so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna figure this out on my own. And so now I have, and so I'm now in the process of building a lead management or a lead generation system, using all the tools that are now at our disposal.
Hmm.
So that's one thing that I just really I feel like it's like a little bit of an obsession over like how can I make an easier process for myself.
I'm the
And
same way. I'm the same way. I don't know AI quite as well as you do, but I would like to know AI, but I'm all about minimalistic, efficient. Like, how can we do something the best way possible, the fastest way possible, without cutting corners on quality? And it kind of drives my spouse crazy sometimes, but whatever.
yeah, output of that looks like magic, right? Because people are like, "Whoa, how are you in 5 different places at once? Like, how did that happen? How did that work
Right.
out?"
Yeah.
And and sometimes for me, I can just think of something that I want.
Hmm.
I'm not trying to like brag or whatever, but I've gotten to a place of like working on my subconscious so much that I can think of something and then, that same hour I'll go, let's say on Facebook or in a networking call or wherever,
Mm-hmm.
and that person with the information like comes directly to me.
Appears.
I'm not even needing to go out there and look for it. It
It just
just
appears.
now comes into my reality. So that's another like shortcut that I feel like I have on
Mm-hmm.
time, is that, I'm not like hours and hours like looking for that partner or client. It's just if it's aligned, it just kind of comes into my reality.
That's cool.
So it's
I want that magical
way
superpower.
of playing. Yeah,
That's the superpower I want.
and we can all have it, definitely. Yes.
Right.
The more we work on our minds,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
more powerful you become. So, yes.
So this has been great. Like I have totally enjoyed our conversation, and I don't know if you have any other final parting words that you want to share with listeners before we go.
I'd love for you all to take the Brilliance Archetype quiz. It's kind of like a Mojo superpower type of quiz as well, but it's focused on it's giving you some tidbit into, perhaps, for example, Lori, you're the explorer, so there's 12 archetypes, and I won't go into all of them, but
Right.
it gives you a little bit of information into, okay, if I incorporated this archetype into my business, what would that look like?
Mm-hmm.
What would I change about how I experience the world, create content, just go about my daily tasks
Mm-hmm.
that's different now that I know that archetype? And so it just helps you change a little bit your way of thinking of like how you go about your business design and also just your day-to-day life, so that you
Yeah.
can again become a little bit more embodied in what lights you up. So
Awesome. That's cool. Well, I'm definitely going to be thinking about me being an explorer and how I can like manifest that and how I can like use that to like create differently in my business. So again, I just thank you for being here, and yeah,
thank you
well
for having me. This was a lot of fun.
yeah, awesome. That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you for tuning in to the On a Mission Mojo podcast. Ready to dive into more incredible stories of people on a mission? Next week, I'll return with a fresh episode to ignite your passion for creating a better world. If you loved what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a glowing review, and spread the word to all your friends. Head over to onamissionbrands.com for more great episodes. Remember, the world needs your mojo, so go out there and let your brilliance shine.